This is Learn from Others, where we interview a cross-section of successful individuals so you can learn from their experiences, achievements, and even their mistakes. We ask 4 questions that will educate and inspire. Greg Stanley will be your guide as we join our guest on a journey from adolescent daydreaming to success in today's world. Join us on this adventure as we learn from others together.
Welcome to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. I'm very excited to introduce our special guest, Gardenier Ware. G, how's it going today?
It's going good. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for taking us on your career journey. Before we find out what you're doing today, let's start at the very beginning, and please tell us, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah, so interesting. I did not know exactly what I wanted to be when I was growing up as a child. I didn't grow up in a professional community. I only had television to the degree that I would see interesting jobs or professionals or what have you. One thing is I always could draw well, so that was a skill I had, a talent that was recognized by one of my art teachers in elementary school. He felt it was such a well-advanced talent that he would even have me to sit in with his high school class.
Wow.
Be able to express my artistic abilities. I did art class when I was in school. Also, I entered a few contests when I was real young and placed and sometime won first place in those, so I was excited about that, but still didn't have a clear vision of what could I do with that talent.
So what kind of stuff did you draw? Because I drew as a little kid as well, but I just kind of copied stuff out of Dungeons and Dragons manuals and stuff. So I was all about the dragons or the fighters with the swords. What kind of stuff did you draw?
Growing up in more of a farming community, I really sketched a lot of landscapes. I would just go out by myself on many days where a lot of my buddies were playing sports or basketball, softball. I would just go out on a meadow or hillside, and I would just sketch an old farmhouse, maybe some abandoned farming equipment that was in a field, trees, lakes, ponds, things of that nature. Yeah, that was just one of those things I enjoyed doing, and just kind of like connected a little bit more with nature during that time in my life.
Right. So you had a passion, but you didn't quite know how to apply it at that point.
Right. Didn't know how to apply it. On television, I would see examples of artists, if you will, expressing that by doing portraits or something of that nature. I think by the time I was maybe age 12 or 13, in the back of these magazines, I would see these little sketch competitions that say, draw this character. It was art instruction school. We really couldn't afford that, but I would still sat down and sketch the turtle, I think called Tippet, and any other caricature they had in the back of the magazine, and that was just kind of interesting to do that.
Oh my goodness, I did the same exact turtle. I did the same
Did
ad.
you?
I did. I submitted it in, and it was the turtle smiling. I think he had a baseball cap on or something. Yeah.
That is the exact one. I thought maybe I want to become a cartoon artist, but again, I just didn't have a clear avenue to how to approach that career.
I didn't realize our paths were so similar. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, what was your first job, one where you really felt like you had some type of responsibilities and wanted to perform?
Yeah, so another interesting path here. Now, being in I grew up in Mississippi, so being in a rural area, there were times when I became of age of maybe 14, 15 years old. I wanted a job so I could get a little money for the summer, for school clothing and things like that. It was easy to go and work for the owner of a large, if you will, like produce type of opportunity. So some of the local farmers in the area would open up summer hire. I started to take some of those opportunities. The first job where I really felt like, in my estimation, it just felt like it was a real job. I was actually being paid, had to have a W-2 and things like that, was a local Piggly Wiggly grocery store.
Oh, yeah. Classic Piggly Wiggly.
So at the local Piggly Wiggly, this really was a place where I interacted a lot with different people, had a responsibility and duty that I had to do by a certain time, had to clock in during those days, clock out, things like that. So I would say that was my first job where I felt a level of responsibility and someone really looking for me to, for stocking shelves, putting products in the right place, helping customers find those products. It's a good experience on that time in my life.
Right. I've stocked many Piggly Wiggly shelves as a Nabisco merchandiser way back in the day. So that's cool.
Still crossing each other's paths.
That's right. Now that we understand the start of your career journey, tell us, what do you do today?
Yeah, so today I'm an architect for the U.S. Air Force, specifically Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. That path in the way that I got to architecture, because earlier I was just sharing how I did not know what to do with the talent I had. Eventually, I went to college thinking I might want to be an engineer. And my professor, when I was taking a mechanical drafting course, thought I really had a unique talent. I was doing a great job in that area as far as hand drafting, and thought I might want to meet the dean of the School of Architecture. This was at Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And so after that class, he walked me over to that facility, introduced me to the dean. The moment I walked on the hallway or into the lobby area, I saw all these examples of skyscrapers and other designs that was displayed, and miniature models and everything representing that. And I knew right then, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. And that's how I would get an opportunity to express that talent. So architecture was the way to go forward into that passion. So working at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, I'm an architect by profession. The title I sit under presently is program manager. And program manager for my daily duties as an architect for the military, looking at it from that side of government, is to look at ways to program, design, and construct as far as facilities, how to address the mission for our men and women who are in uniform, who serve on a daily basis.
So from a military standpoint, are you designing buildings? Are you taking existing buildings and redoing them, renovating them? How does that look day to day?
Yeah, so it's a combination. So we have what we call customers. There are different military units that are located on base, all have their own mission. And myself, along with my counterparts, we are assigned a group of these customers, these base customers. And so one example is the fire department. We have 3 fire departments on base because of the size and scale of the base. Because you have a flight line, you have to have the response time for emergencies. So we have 3 fire departments all under one umbrella, different locations. And when that mission starts to change, they start to grow as far as they need to respond to a further location. Once that becomes a part of that route, we have to make sure that facility can accommodate that, the number of vehicles, the manning for that, which means that the existing facility is evaluated. So given its age, can a renovation project accomplish that mission? Do we need to relocate and construct new? Have the design standards change? Have the building codes change? So you start to apply, similar to how we do it in the private sector, you start to apply the most updated codes to address facilities and facility use. Sometimes customers are in a given type of facility and the mission changes where that facility needs to be renovated to operate a different way to address that new function. Sometimes a hangar for aircraft can be converted to an office building, a complex, and so on. So that's usually the daily approach to my duties, is just figuring out how to properly use taxpayer dollars wisely and how to address the mission at hand for those who serve.
Okay. No, that's great. So if you would, walk us through how you got to this role. I know you mentioned you went to college. How about right out of college? Mm-hmm. Did you have an internship anywhere? Did you start working at a smaller architectural firm, kind of figuring out where the outlets went and then worked your way up? What was your path, and then specifically your path to the government sector?
So when I was in college, I did do a couple of internships, which was preparing me for the traditional approach to architecture. So when I say traditional, typically you will have a student who will complete their undergraduate in architecture, many times go to a more traditional firm setting. It could be residential or commercial. Again, you would be solving problems through design and construction for clients. In this case, the client for myself, or that I'm a part of, is our federal government, and more specifically the military. When I graduated, I pursued several opportunities and flew around and had interviews and so forth. This particular opportunity at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which was offered to me, I didn't know exactly at first what it would be like to do architecture for the government. I remember the old movie MASH, and I thought I might be doing these hangars or tents or something like that. But to my surprise, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is an example of a community or a city within a city. So you have approximately 26,000 civilian and government employees. You have all building types you would find, for instance, in downtown Cincinnati. You would find hospital, office complex, housing, dormitories similar to college. You do have our Air Force Institute of Technology, which is more of what the university setting would be. And the list just goes on and on. And the Air Force also has a commitment to design excellence. So once I saw that opportunity, I thought, wow, this will be great. I'm still going to get a lot of hands-on, and I think I've been able to get more hands-on in different building types and unique missions that might be a little bit different than being in the private sector.
Yeah, it's interesting that, like you said, it's a small city, so you have all types of buildings there, and it seems like the opportunities for you would be very varied and diverse.
Right, a tremendous amount of variety. It's really great.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, before we move on to our next question, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsors.
Do you enjoy your job and find it fulfilling? Or do you spend more time wondering what if instead of what's next? If so, contact Career Spa. Career Spa has extensive programs and curriculum and understands the challenges faced by individuals in transition. They can teach these success practices to be mastered for an effective job search. Answer that what if question by contacting Career Spa and asking their experts, what's next? Contact Career Spa at careerspa.net. Talent acquisition is key to building a successful organization. Talent Connections is a professional services firm that specializes in recruiting, including executive search, contract recruiting, talent acquisition consulting, and recruitment process outsourcing. Whether you are an individual or a Fortune 100 company, Talent Connections can connect you with success. Contact them at talentconnections.net.
Welcome back. Well, we just learned what you wanted to be when you grew up, which you weren't quite sure, but you had a flair for drawing, and what you actually do today, which is an architect in the Air Force, which is great that your passion came to fruition. So if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently?
If I could do it all over again, I think on one hand, I would definitely plan more, research more. I think today there's so many tools at a person's that so many people have opportunity now to research, to gather information, to really dig deep in professions and learn a little bit more about what's going on in that profession. At the same time, I would say some of the joy that I experience and the excitement I experience comes from stepping out on faith and not really knowing everything. I mean, it's natural to want to know and have all questions answered. But I think a little bit of both, I don't want to just say if I could do it all over again, I would remove everything that was kind of like a doubt or not being sure. There's a possibility at one time I could have overlooked this opportunity with this side of government and passed it over and would have really missed out on a great opportunity that I'm experiencing today.
Right.
I would say, when possible, and there's a place for gathering proper information about careers, but I would definitely say also in today's society, you can really take a non-traditional approach to some career opportunities and can develop something new or experience something new and exciting. That would be my take on that, doing something different.
Right. Well, let's make the assumption that someone in our audience wants to do what you do. What advice would you give them, or is there a traditional career path? Yeah,
so the traditional career path into architecture would be attending an accredited architectural program at a college or university. I think today that most programs, I attended a program that was a 5-year professional degree. So you went a straight 5 years, and after that you received what they call a professional degree, and you were ready to go and immediately start becoming more of an apprentice with under a licensed architect. And at that point, you start to collect the hours and time needed to sit for the exam. In today's program, I think it's changed to where most schools you have a 4+2 or 4+1. So that would be 4-year undergraduate degree at that point, maybe some students decide they don't want to take the traditional route to become a licensed architect. They want to maybe pursue other avenues of design and so forth. They could receive that degree at that point. But if you want to go the traditional route, you go on to finish that +1 or +2. That's more like a master's, and then that does the same thing as that professional degree I got some years ago, where you would sit under a licensed architect, engineers, and then you would go through that process to learn that profession and be ready to sit for the exam for licensure.
Okay.
So that would be more of a traditional route. But of course, you know, if you look at HGTV, which is a prime example, you would find many who are designers at heart. They have a passion for it. They are entrepreneurs. They are not necessarily standing in the role of an architect, but they are able to put their hands on design and influence design in many ways. And that's another great way to express those things.
Right. Yeah, I actually majored in architecture for a year and a half down at FAMU in Florida. And
Okay.
the issue I had was I didn't start till like year 3. And no matter when you started it, at least the design courses you had to take in succession. And so
Right.
it was a 5-year course, and I did not make it. I chose to do something different. Are there opportunities to intern while you're in high school so that you can make that, yes, I want to do this commitment year 1 versus year 2 or 3 where you're kind of behind the 8 ball?
I do believe that, now, I guess when we use the word intern, I think if you're a high school student, there are probably opportunities where I think you definitely can shadow someone at an architectural firm. I've tried to have those opportunities to connect the right personnel with students to have that opportunity. As far as how does the details work into that, I'm not really sure. But I definitely would say, if you think you want to be an architect, for someone who's definitely in high school, going to a local architectural firm, I don't think many would deny the great opportunity to give you a tour, to help you understand what they do day to day. Because, you know, you have the glamour, exciting side of design and the thought of creating something and it's constructed and you can say that reflects a design idea or character that I had. But also there's a very serious other part of that gets into building codes, fire codes, gets into the engineering side. So you're working with a team of engineers of all disciplines, and everyone is trying to come together to make sure this concept and design that you dreamed up, that how do you make it work? How do you bring all the pieces together and make it function by code? And at the same time, it's supposed to satisfy the customer's needs. So it is really, it is exciting to see it all happen. In the real world, it does have its challenges. And at my job where I'm working on these projects, it's like a cradle to grave. So I start out with the customer, trying to understand their requirements. I go all the way through the design and construction effort. And then even at the turnkey, when the customer, as I would say, receives the facility, they're set up to operate. Any little bugs that need to be worked out, I'm still there working those bugs out. So that's another uniqueness to my job or my daily duties that I do that might be a little different than a standard architectural firm.
Right. Now, do you have a favorite architect you would point some college students or, wish to be architect to take a look at the work they're doing?
Well, definitely in the local Cincinnati area, there are a lot of great firms out there, and I know several, and they all are good. Immersion Design, I think, really have exciting cutting-edge design and great team of designers that I think are willing to really help young people who are looking for an opportunity to see if architecture is a passion they want to pursue, if this is the right way, or even sometime I think having that introduction can really help you see if you just want to veer that a little bit different. Maybe there are other industries out there where your talent can benefit you. It just might not be in its totality traditionally architecture. Definitely, if you were to look them up online, you can see examples of their work in local areas and afar. So.
Right. Okay. Well, great. Are there any current projects you're working on that you would like to share?
Well, we were talking about the fire department. I use them just as an example of explaining a customer and how we deal with and create projects. I'm working on a fire station at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And so, the uniqueness of this particular fire station this fire station is designed where the vehicles in the bay respond to two different sides of our base. So you have the airfield where they respond directly to the airfield and for that mission to address any emergencies. And then you have the traditional vehicles on the other side of the bay that respond to the bay side, the structural side of the bay. That particular fire station is set up in a way where it's almost like, if you think of it, you're placing it on a dividing line where one side responds to one side and one part responds to the other. And again, that's a little bit different than many private sector bases, stations, which are set up to respond primarily just to the general public in its totality. That's just unique in how you set that up, and it comes with other challenges you have to work through and how you do certain things. So, I would say that is a project I'm working on now that is a new construction that will really be unique in its operation.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, one great perk to some jobs is a company car, and I'm a huge car enthusiast, so I would, if I had all the money in the world, I'd love to buy you a really cool company car. So this is based on your job, and I'm going to go a little old school on you. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, so for your particular job, because of the Air Force influence and the design aspect, I picked the 1959 Cadillac Eldorado Barrett's convertible. Are you familiar with this car?
I'm somewhat familiar with it. Might not be specifically on the year, but yes, I have some general familiarity.
So what's cool about this car, and I'll send you a picture, is it's the classic Cadillac with the big fins. It's the year where it had the biggest and the tallest fins, 42 inches tall from the ground. They could actually impale someone if you weren't careful. But more importantly, it was the design exercise that was really outstanding. They were competing with Chrysler at the time. They wanted to really do something cool. And then on top of that, the entire car, the whole fins phenomenon was Cadillac was the first one to do that. And that was actually based on the World War II airplane, the P-38.
Okay.
So at the time, the Air Force wasn't technically in existence, I don't think, until 1947. So it was the precursor. So this particular car not only has a big design influence on it, but it also relates to the Air Force. What version of it was existing in World War II, which I think was the Army Air Brigade or something like that. So
glad you brought that up. That is just a perfect example of when we went through this conversation of talking about design in general, architecture, the path I took. Everything has that element of design to it. So the automotive industry is another one of those places, aerospace and technology and so forth. Many ways to express that talent of design. And cars, which I love, are one great way to do that.
Right, exactly. Thank you so much for taking us on your journey today. What's the best way our listeners can learn more about you or, I guess, the Air Force?
I would just say I'll leave this with your listeners. Definitely at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, we have the Air Force National Museum. That is a great,
that's fantastic,
must-see. If I am correct, there's no fee for those tours. You just go through. I think it's only the gift shop and the restaurants that serve that their fees for that service. But other than that, you get a chance to go through all of the eras of wartime and all of the discovery and everything. And they just finished the last hangar, at least for now, that was done maybe no more than a year ago. So I would say, you can look that up online, and hopefully if you're in and around the Dayton area, you get an opportunity to experience that.
Yeah, that is wonderful. We have actually not been back since they opened that new hangar. So, well, thanks again so much for taking us on your career journey today.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me, and I really enjoyed it myself.
Thank you for listening to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. Where will our next adventure take us? Subscribe to find out. If you know of someone who has a cool career story or occupation, contact Greg through Instagram at Greg Stanley LFO. That's GregStanley LFO. And we will see you soon as we learn from others together.